You ready? You have 8.5 minutes.
All right, so I know we've got a couple sports fans, sports nuts out in the crowd. So let me see. Do you really know sports history? We're going to start off with a couple trivia questions. So does anyone here know the first collegiate athletics team in the United States? Anyone happen to know? Want to take a guess? No? It was actually Yale Heavyweight Men's Crew, founded in 1843, followed by our very own Harvard Men's Crew team, which was founded a year later in 1844. That is actually Harvard's boathouse, which is just off of the Anderson Bridge on our very own Charles River, just down the road. Does anyone happen to know the first intercollegiate sporting event that is still held today in the United States? Not a clue? Actually, the Harvard-Yale Regatta, first held in 1852, and then held annually from 1859 until now. This year will be the 147th annual Harvard-Yale Regatta. And can anyone tell me the largest sporting event in Boston? Come on, we get a day off school.
Marathon.
Marathon Monday. Does anyone know the second largest? Correct. At the Charles Regatta. This is shown at Weeks Bridge, which is typically the favorite fan location to watch because of how many crashes happen at that bridge. And so that leads me into the art of rowing. Rowing is, just as George Pocock, who is a famous boat maker and founder of the brand and club team called Pocock Racing, harmony, balance, and rhythm are what drive the sport of crew. Yes, it is very much powerful. You see the 6'7" guys walking around campus with their Northeastern rowing sweatshirts on, but it is all about the balance and the rhythm, which you'll see once I show you the technical aspects of the actual rowing stroke as well as the boat. First off, there's a couple different types of rowing. If you didn't already know, there is sculling and sweeping. Sculling consists of typically 3 types of boats, which are the single, the double, and the quad, with their abbreviations of 1X, 2X, 4X, and then sweeping, which is a pair, 4, straight 4, and an 8, with their similar abbreviations. Sculling is essentially the same thing, same type of boat, but the rower has 2 oars. A little bit narrower boat, narrow racing shell, as we call the actual boats in crew. And the X in the abbreviation simply means 2 oars. Then we get over to sweeping. Sweeping is 1 oar per oarsman, and there's the pair, the 4, the straight 4, and an 8. The minus sign next to the abbreviation simply means that it's just the 2 athletes, or the 4 athletes in a straight 4. And the plus in the 4 and the 8 means there is an additional person on board, known as the coxswain, which is my role on the women's crew team. I'll be focusing mostly on the 8 as the main event for this. And this is an overview of an 8. As you can see, there's the stern, the bow, port, and starboard. Not much different from a normal boat, if any of you have ever been out on a boat or out sailing. We'll start off with the stern end and the coxswain. The coxswain sits in the stern end, but faces the direction of travel, which is towards the bow, whereas all the athletes face the coxswain towards the stern. The athletes do not see where they're going. They rely solely on the coxswain to direct them and lead them out of harm's way and lead them to victory. And from the coxswain down, you have the 8 athletes, starting with stroke seat, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and bow seat. Stroke and 7 seat are what we call the stroke pair. Stroke pair sets the rhythm and the tone for the piece. They set the speed, they set the balance, and then we move into the middle 4, which is 6, 5, 4, and 3. 6, 5, 4, and 3, the middle 4, as we call them, are typically the powerhouse. That's really what they're known as, is the powerhouse of the boat. Because of where they're located in the shell, it's a little bit wider across in the hull of the boat, and that allows for more power, and that's why they're strategically placed in the middle. As we move back, we have 2 seat and bow seat. They're really the balance and maintaining that same rhythm that the stroke pair sets, because let's be honest, the middle 4 likes to get a little wild with their power, so the bow pair will set them and keep that same tone. And as I said before, their direction of travel is towards the bow, making crew a very kind of vicious mind game of sport because you can't see your competitors ahead of you. You just have to keep pushing and pushing yourself, but you can watch the people that you beat. You can watch yourself walk right away from them, which is a very vicious sport, I think. And this is actually an overview of an actual racing shell. This is the German national team. And the actual racing boats are made of carbon fiber plastic in a honeycomb design, which makes it very lightweight and very fragile. Boats break all the time. I have seen people break off the bow end of a boat. I've seen one crack on one of the trailers just driving to a regatta. But they typically are, a Racing 8 is typically about 54 to 55 feet long and weighs anywhere from 175 pounds to 210 pounds. Very lightweight when you think about there are 8 athletes in the boat weighing anywhere from 170 to 220 pounds, plus an additional coxswain that weighs anywhere from 110 to 140 pounds. So for such a lightweight boat, it does carry a lot of cargo. Now let's move on to the actual rowing stroke. I'll show you the different parts and portions of the stroke, which can be broken down into the catch, the drive, the finish, and the recovery. This is what we call the catch. The catch is where the actual blade is placed in the water. As you can see, these are the different muscles that are put into effect. It's mostly the hamstrings and the shoulders and back. As with every portion of the stroke, the core is held very tight, and the blade actually enters the water and moves you into the drive, where the legs start to press down, the glutes are engaged, the quadriceps are engaged, and you start to swing the back open. You move into the finish, which is where your hands come in, the blade pops out of the water with just a slight tap down in the hands because it's a lever system, and you move into the recovery, which is the most relaxed portion. There is no weight on the blade. You're simply moving right back up to go back into the catch and repeat the stroke. I'll show you a short clip of our very own Northeastern men's team on their recent trip to Florida for winter training, just so you can kind of get a visual of what the stroke looks like. As you can see, they roll up the slide, place the blade in, and you can see all their muscles engage as they move and lay back. Next up is the role of the coxswain, which is my role in the boat. This is an overhead shot of the coxswain. As you can see, they're facing their stroke seat, and the little gadget in front of them is what's most vital to a coxswain, which is called the cox box. It holds the stroke rate, which tells you how many strokes per minute you're taking. Typically in a 2,000 meter race, which is a typical spring race, you can take anywhere. The race will typically start around 38 strokes per minute, move into about 32 strokes per minute in the middle, and towards the end you can hit up to 42 strokes per minute. That's really fast, if you couldn't already tell. And then there's a stroke counter, which tells you how many strokes you're taking in a piece. That's typically used just for practice purposes. A timer as well to tell how fast that piece was that you just did, to kind of compare where you are throughout your season. And then the microphone and the speakers are the most vital. The microphone, it connects in just a little headset that I wear in the boat. The microphone comes down, and that connects through the speakers that are placed throughout the boat. I've actually had my cox box die in a couple races, which leaves me to yell across the entire boat, which isn't very fun by the end of a 2,000 meter race that typically lasts about 7 minutes. And that is essentially the art of rowing. Thank you so much for letting me share my passion with you, and I hope now that you have a little bit more information, a little more understanding, that you'll be more inclined to perhaps go to one of our races this spring or maybe the head of the Charles next year.
Thank you.